back in year 2008, by the way, we did approach a couple of VCs to try to raise some funds. In year 2008, when we began, I must have approached three or four of them. But now I can say, thankfully, we could not convince them. You know, so we approached them, and their thought process was that, hey, why to invest in a B2B travel company when the travel agent is going to die? And they were right. And then our thought process was that, hey, we will not always remain a B2B travel company. We will switch to consumer business one day. And then again, their thought process was that, hey, ClearTrip, Make My Trip, Yatra, Ixigo, Ibibo, they all exist already. So what's the point of investing another one? You already are too late. So according to me, I think they were right in their analysis. There was nothing wrong. And to be honest, there are so many nuances about the business. You're a VC yourself, right now, so you would know that there's so many nuances about a business which you cannot make out in the first meeting. So, and sometimes I also invest in startups, right? So, my advice to the startups in which I advise is that, hey, you might be 100% right, but I'm using my quick filters to judge yes or no. And, the chances of me wrong are much, much higher. So just don't be disappointed. I'm just using a filter, and that's exactly what happened. The VCs just use their filters to shun us out, right? That, hey, B2B travel, no way. B2C travel, no way. But the nuances are the things which were missed.
Hi everyone, I'm your host Siddharth Aluwalia. Before we dive deep into this week's conversation, I would like to thank our sponsors, Prime Venture Partners. Prime is a high conviction, high support investor backing star teams with differentiated ideas. All partners at Prime work actively with the entrepreneurs post investment to accelerate building a great company. Prime focuses on building differentiating companies whose solutions are 10x better and are powered by technology and product. Prime is now investing from its fourth fund of $100 million dollars and is often the first institutional investor in category creating tech startups such as Quizzes, MoneyTap, Neo, and Dozy. To know more about Prime, visit primebp.in. Today, I have with me Prashant Pitti, co-founder of Ease My Trip. Ease My Trip is a category leader in travel sector where you can book flights, hotels, and much more on their platform. It's the only Indian internet company to be built bootstrapped without raising a single penny from investors and then going public. Even after going public at around 208 rupees per share, they created a lot of wealth for their retail investors, currently trading at 560 rupees per share. Welcome, Prashant, to the podcast, and fantastic to have you.
Thank you so much for having me over here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Uh, Prashant, you and your co-founders built Ease My Trip during the recession of 2008. Tell us of your experience of building it then. Weren't you called insane by your friends and family for starting a venture in travel sector during recession?
Yeah, I mean, so we all grew in Delhi, and I graduated from IIT Madras. And for the first 3 years, I was, working for a couple of banks in the US. And I quit my job and moved back to India in late 2008. By that time, Nishant and Rikant, two of my younger brothers, they had already started Easmart Trip. Now, so basically, the way we started Easmart Trip was also very different. We actually started a regular mom and pop travel agency in Delhi first. Now, with that travel agency, we ran the travel agency for about 7 to 8 months.
Got
We understood a lot of pain points a travel agent has to go through. So the first version of Easma Trip as a tech company uh, was started to solve the pain points of a travel agent. It wasn't for a regular consumer. So we knew exactly what pain points travel agent had since we ran a travel agency ourselves. And we wanted to solve those pain points of a travel agent using technology. And that's how Easma Trip came into life. So Easma Trip wasn't fighting against Make My Trip, Clear Trip, Yatra in the beginning for the first 3 years. There were almost about 11,000 travel agents who were using EaseMyTrip by the end of third year, and business was going pretty well. And that is exactly when we decided to pivot and start a consumer business. And now our consumer business is 93% business, and travel agent business is only 7%. So we are basically competing against the likes of Make My Trip, Yatra, Ibibo, Clear Trips, as we have become a consumer tech company since last 11 odd years. But we began with a very strong moat, which was we knew exactly the pain points travel agent had to go through, and we were solving them using eSmartTrip.
And what is the problem exactly you were solving for the first 3 years for travel agents?
See, the problem statement was actually very, very simple. As a travel agent ourselves, airlines used to give us 3 to 4% commissions, and we needed to put money in various airlines in order to be able to book using their systems. Now, the solution which EasyMyTrip offered to travel agent was that, hey, instead of putting 50,000 rupees in each and every airline account, why don't you put money only in EasyMyTrip? And as we are aggregating bunch of you, we will get 6 to 7% commissions from the airlines, and we'll pass on 5% to you. So your margins will improve, and your capex will also reduce. So this was a very simple solution which we were offering. We integrated all the airlines on our website, and we're offering service exclusive to travel agent for the first 3 years. Now, through this means, we were able to we were the only salespeople in the team. So we met thousands of travel agents, all across India, and then soon the word started spreading as the service which EasyMyTrip was providing, and by that we basically got the business.
And how much of your own capital, you and your brothers put in the beginning?
We come from an extremely modest family, so it's not that we come from the wealthy beings. We probably put in about 5 to 10 lakh rupees to start the
Got
business,
it.
and the business is still bootstrapped. In the last 13 years of running, we have never raised any money either from VC or PE or a bank. And yeah, we have become the second largest travel portal in India, while being at it for the last 13 years.
And at the end of 3 years in 2011, if you could remember, right, how were your cash flows looking at that point in time?
So business was growing. At the end of the third year, we had almost about 11,000 travel agents who were using us. Business was growing, but that business wasn't profitable. It was barely breaking even. See, I mean, we would get 7 to 8% commissions from the airlines. We would pass on 6% to the travel agent. So within that 1.5 to 2%, we had to manage all our operations. We had to manage all our cost, our technology cost, our operation cost, our sales cost, server cost, and everything, right? So the business wasn't very profitable at that time. We were breaking even, but we were growing pretty well. Now that is when we actually decided that, hey, why don't we open up ourselves to the regular consumers? And as soon as we did that, we realized that, hey, I'm getting 7 to 8% commissions from the airlines, but I don't have to pass this 6% discount to the regular consumer. Just giving them 1.5% discount is good enough, because that's what market was doing. And also, at that time, we decided that we will not charge consumers convenience fees, which everybody was charging at that time. I don't know if you know about what convenience fees is.
Yes.
Most of the OTAs and even airlines for that matter charge convenience fees at the end of the page. So at EasyMyTrip, we decided that, hey, we anyways, our systems are built such way that we would be extremely profitable even without convenience fees. So why not to not just charge it and see where it grows? And so we primarily grew via word of mouth. So that this is how the company grew in the last 11 years. In year 2011, when we opened up ourselves to regular consumers, we didn't charge convenience fees, and we still stick back to that policy, and because of which the company has grown to where it is. We are not a very marketing driven company. Most of the users who are using EasyMyTrip, they stick by to EasyMyTrip, and they usually got to know about EasyMyTrip through their friends and family.
And as you started expanding into segments, what are the various segments and what was introduced into EaseMyTrip offering at what point in time?
Well, we started with the flight booking, but now almost everything is available at EasyMyTrip. You can book your hotel, you could book your holidays, you could book your train, bus, cabs, everything on EasyMyTrip. And the right now we are basically focusing on the non-air part as well, via cross-selling. So people come to EasyMyTrip for flight booking, but then we are able to cross-sell them the other travel packages or other travel product. So at EasyMyTrip, there is no such service related to travel which is not with us, but it is available with somebody else. It's a full stack OTA right now.
And what's interesting is that you were able to keep your operations lean because travel is extremely competitive sector. Everybody in 2011 was throwing VC money, giving discounts to consumers. So how were you able to create out a unique offering and a brand positioning in front of consumers?
See, you absolutely mentioned it correctly that Easemarket was able to keep its operational cost very minimal. See, we are not the market creators. The market was created by somebody else.
Yeah.
And to be honest, hats off to them. Creating a market is extremely tough job. Our job was relatively easier. Our job was to be extremely efficient and be extremely disciplined. These are the only things which I will ask you to take away from Easemarket. Be extremely efficient and disciplined, through which we were able to continuously serve people, not just at break even cost, but while making money. And we continue to utilize the money which we made into the business to grow even faster. So that is how the company is not only just the second largest, but we are also one of the fastest growing travel companies in India right now. Now, how did we do that? So basically, the answer probably lies in the beginning, as our operations, our technology, everything was streamlined to sustain in 1.5 to 2% business, right? When we began. Now, as the business was streamlined to sustain in 1.5 to 2%, as we shifted to consumer business, our profit margin increased dramatically while our cost did not change by much. As soon as we shifted from B2B to B2C, the operations did not change by much. Our operations remained the same, but however, the profitability increased dramatically. Just because now our margins are no longer 1.5 to 2%, but it's around 5 to 6%, and that is how things change for us. And one thing which for the first 3 to 4 years, from 2011 till 2015, our B2C business did not grow by much. Now this is where I think, by being not funded, there was a blessing for us. We were patient enough to wait to see that business grow slowly. While our B2B business was doing all right, from 2011 till 2015, our B2C business did not grow by that much. But
Got it.
patience basically paved the way. Instead of spending money on marketing, we just continue to evolve ourselves, make our customer service even better, make our product even better. And sooner or later, the word started spreading that why to use some other website when you could use Easemarket without paying convenience fees. Convenience fees is also not a small amount, right? It's like per
Yeah.
passenger. Most of the OTs are charging anywhere between 300 to 500 rupees per passenger as convenience fees. So that's a very substantial saving which consumers have when they use Easemarket. And we grew primarily via the evangelism which our consumers showed, by spreading the word for Easemarket.
And you mentioned between 2011 to 2015, you were just building the base for the consumer business. If you could remember, right, how were the revenues in the consumer business during this time?
Very little. We were growing almost at 15 to 20% per year, and that to the base
Yeah.
was very small. So I think, back in year 2008, by the way, we did approach a couple of VCs to try to raise some
Yeah.
funds. In year 2008, when we began, I must have approached three or four of them.
Yeah.
But now I can say, thankfully, we could not convince them. uh, you know so we approached them, and their thought process was that, hey, why to invest in a B2B travel company when the travel
Yeah.
agent is going to die? And they were right. And then our thought process was that, hey, we will not always remain a B2B travel company, we will switch to consumer business one day.
Yeah.
And then again, their thought process was that, hey, Clear Trip, Make My Trip, Yatra, Ixigo, Ibibo, they all exist already. So what's the point of investing another one? You already
Yeah.
are too late. So, according to me, I think they were right in their analysis. There was nothing wrong. And to be honest, there are so many nuances about the business. You're a VC yourself, right? Now, so you would
Yes.
know that there's so many nuances about a business which you cannot make out in the first
Yeah.
meeting. So, and sometimes I also invest in startups, right? So, my advice to the startups in which I advise is that, hey, you might be 100% right, but I'm using my quick filters to judge yes or no.
Yeah.
And the chances of me wrong are much much higher.
Yeah.
So just don't be disappointed. I'm just using a filter, and that's exactly what happened. The VCs just use their filters to shun us out, right? That, hey, B2B travel, no way. B2C travel, no way. But the nuances are the things which were missed. So anyways, because we could not raise money near 2008, we were patient enough to continue
Yeah.
our slow growth from year 2011 till 2015. And from 2015 onwards, there's something more than maths. I don't know what exactly happened in year
Yeah.
2015, but there's something really more than maths. You have to be there for the consumer. they must try you one or two times before they
Yeah.
start advocating you. And that is exactly what happened. I'm assuming that many people must have tried us twice, and both the times they did not pay convenience fees. And then they started paying, then they started spreading the word. So from 2015 till 2020, there was no year where our business did not grow by more than 60% every year.
Oh,
So the business continued to grow, and we are catching up. You know, we were the third largest travel portal 2 years ago. We are the second largest travel portal right now, and in the next couple of years, we are looking forward to change the status again.
and you were before the current bull market, right? Before anybody's right now, many people are identifying this as an opportunistic time to go public. You went public really early. What was the thought process behind that during going public, and what did it
So
require?
So to be honest, there was no internet company which went public in year 2018, 19, 20. We were
Yeah,
the first company which went public in year 2021. All right,
yeah,
internet company, first internet, pure internet company to go public in year 2021. Then came Zomato, then came others. Right
yeah,
now, for us, we started thinking about being listed in India in year 2018 when it was almost unfathomable for most of the internet startups.
yeah,
And the reason why it made sense for us was that hey, we are growing we are growing really rapidly, and we are growing profitably.
yeah,
So profitability is one key thing, right, which is looked after in Indian market. So that is how we felt pretty convinced that we don't have to take the VC money anymore, since the business is anyways growing without any capex requirement.
yeah,
But we could probably get listed, and since profitability is looked very seriously in Indian market, I think we would be welcomed. So in year 2018, we actually started preparing for IPO,
yeah.
and the late 2018. And the date which we decided when we will go public was 22nd March 2020.
Okay.
That was the date we decided then. 22nd
Yes.
March 2020 to go public, and everything was done to be listed on that day. All right. So the bankers, the lawyers, the CAs, the auditors, everybody was working on a backward track
Yeah.
to get Eastmarket listed on 22nd March 2020. So we met a lot of investors in January and February of 2020, not knowing what's to come.
Yeah.
And on 6th of March 2020, I remember calling all those investors myself and saying that, hey, something big is coming. And it's better that we put our IPO plan to indefinite position, because,
Yeah.
we were also planning to raise some pre IPO money.
Yeah.
So a couple of people were almost about to wire the money. And
Yeah.
we stopped them saying that, hey, maybe the IPO will not happen. Something big is coming, it looks like. So let's just wait it out. And that is how the original IPO plan actually got postponed, and then we actually successfully did our IPO on 19th of March of 2021.
I also bought, I'm also a very small shareholder in Eastmatrix, and I bought it at the time, you went IPO.
Areva,
So,
thanks.
uh, so, how did pandemic affect you, right? During the last 1 year has been very, very tough uh, uh, for travel, OTAs, anybody in travel sector, in hospitality sector.
Absolutely. I mean, I can easily say this, that the travel industry is one of the most severely affected industry by this pandemic. The company did business of about 4,400 crores in FY20. Okay. Now that business fell to half in FY21. Our business, came to almost 2,100, 2,200 crores in FY21, thanks to the pandemic, right? The business volume went to half. However, there are many things which this company did, because of which our profitability did not fall. In fact, we are one of the very rare travel technology companies, which remained profitable even in the COVID year. And I think that's a bit like a litmus test for this company. That
Yeah.
in last 13 years, including the COVID year, this company did not lose money. So this is how efficiently this company is built. This is how this is how consistently we have performed. That even COVID could not make this company loss making company. So the efficiency, it shines out, especially even for us, knowing that One of our competitor even went through a distress sale, right, during the COVID
Yeah.
times. So I think this is what the company is all about. That we have built such a lean, efficient company that even COVID could not stop us from being profitable. There are many things which we did, which helped us during this journey, during the COVID times, to remain profitable. There are a few things which which I would like to share.
Sure.
First is, as soon as the lockdown was enacted upon, we realized that everybody is looking for refunds, right? Now, all the flights were cancelled voluntarily, right? Now, what happened was we realized that everybody is asking us for refunds, and we were waiting for airlines to give us the refund. Then only we could give it to the consumers, right? Like, not just we, all the OTAs, everybody was waiting for airlines to give the refund. Now at EaseMyTrip, we decided that we will use our cash reserves. We had about 150 odd crores of cash reserves in the company. We thought that for certain airlines, we will use our cash reserves and we will give money to consumers even before airlines give us the money. That was pretty gutsy decision at that time, because you never know what if those airlines go bankrupt. Then you lose the money on both the sides, right? Airlines don't give you money anymore, and you have already given money to the consumers,
Yeah.
and it's a loss too. So we dipped ourselves with we dipped our cash reserves by about 70 to 80 crores, and we gave consumers money even before airlines gave us the money. Just hoping and knowing the fact that at least for these airlines, they're not going to go bankrupt. Just having that very good feeling, comfort feeling around those airlines. Now, after 2 to 3 months, business resumed again, and we were able to get that money from the airline. So net net, there was no loss for the company. But what happened by this decision was there was a huge uproar on social media where people were tagging our competitors and saying that, hey, my friend got money from Ease My Trip. Where is my money?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't know that it was done. As we were going a mile ahead by doing this. There was nothing wrong from our competitor side because nobody got the money. But that definitely created humongous amount of goodwill for the company during the COVID times. And the second thing which we did during the COVID times was, this was the first. This was during the first lockdown, right? But during the second lockdown, which happened in the month of May 2021, 6 months ago, where we had a devastating wave. At that time, just after the second wave, we realized that people want to travel, but they're scared. What if they get quarantined? What if they get COVID and stuff like that? So at EaseMyTrip, we came up with a very unique service, which is book any air ticket on EaseMyTrip, and if you have to later cancel it because of any medical reasons, just upload doctor's prescription and you will get the full money back, including the
Yeah.
money which airline deduct, including the money which airlines deduct. And this service was provided free of cost to everybody who was using EaseMyTrip. So this service also helped get travel back in shape. We could see a humongous amount of job just coming because of the service which we were providing to the consumers. So yes, there are multiple things which we did because of which the company fared pretty well during the pandemic times.
And what is the value behind such decisions that you and your team took?
So most of the decisions are coming from, so we believe that there are only two reasons to do any business. That one is to serve your consumers very well, and this is what is the primary reason which is driving most of these decisions. And second is to do it profitably so you can serve them for long duration of time.
Yeah.
This is what I believe, that there are only two reasons one should be doing business. So for the sake of the first reason, to basically serve your consumers very well, which we keep at the epitome of all the decision making, is how we basically derived both these decisions.
Got it. And though you have mentioned it in the podcast, but just to summarize for our listeners, what do you think is the biggest moat of Ease My Trip versus the other travel OTA players, and what has helped you, and keep on helping you to grow 50-60% year on year from here on?
Sure. So basically, I think what's happening with the internet these days, so that is that internet is getting commoditized.
Yeah.
What was novelty 10 years ago is not a novelty anymore.
Yeah.
It's not a novelty anymore. It's the same service which you can get at three or four different players. Now, I believe that in a commodity business, the basic of a commodity business is that you should keep your cost low, and you should give maximum value to consumers. You should pass back the maximum value to consumers. And if you are able to do that consistently, then you don't have to market yourself. That's the basic of a commodity business. And I think that the VC funded companies do a great job at creating a market or expanding a market, but they barely focus on efficiency. They barely
Yeah.
focus on efficiency of a company. Just to grow too fast, the efficiency takes a back seat. And I think now the time has come that a lot of ed tech companies, a lot of e-commerce companies, a lot of travel companies could start seeing rationalization in their cost, because I think eventually the one which has the strongest unit economics will win. See, eventually one day, for I can speak for my industry, my travel industry, the money has dried up. The VC money has dried up just
Yeah.
because none of the players have successfully delivered the value to the VCs, to the PEs, to the banks. So, I think the money has dried up in the travel industry, which is a great thing for EasyMyTrip, because now it's a level playing field. Earlier, my competitors could raise billions of dollars because capital was cheap for them, and while capital was extremely expensive for EasyMyTrip, since we never raised money. But now we have almost come to a level playing field where raising money is extremely difficult. Hence, the value of money is the same. So I think that is the time with for the next decade. I'm seeing that the same thing will happen for a lot of internet companies which are almost commoditized in nature. So the biggest moat is that our unit economics is so strong that even pandemic could not we are so resilient that even pandemic could not make us a loss making company. That I think is the biggest moat, and because we are so robust, we are so capital efficient, we are so operationally efficient, we can afford to not charge convenience fees and be profitable, while our competitors, even after charging convenience fees, are loss making. So this is the great difference. And since we have consistently not charged convenience fees, we are growing primarily via word of mouth, which becomes extremely hard for anybody to challenge.
Prashant, so you would have taken very different decisions. For example, you would not have hired the the highest package IITians for the market just because you need to be so efficient, right? So how did you take care of your hiring and some other parts of the business?
No, actually, that's actually a very great question. The hiring philosophy, the expenditure philosophy which this company has is actually very very different. I tell you, we actually hire a lot of students, freshers from NITs and RITs rather than IITs. Being an IIT and myself, I can tell you that there are certain things we are good at, and certain things I think just one pedigree below could be better
Yeah,
at. For example, I think most of the IITians are actually risk adverse people. I mean, we studied way too hard to get into IIT,
yeah,
right? So, and I value people from BITS, I value people from NITs because they didn't study that hard. They're not that risk adverse people. They didn't study that hard to get into IIT. So I don't think so that there's huge amount of difference in talent. It's a difference in mentality between the IITs and NITs. So and we heavily depend on hiring people from NITs, RITs, and BITS. And the other thing which we do is very differently is we also hire a lot of freshers from tier two, tier three towns, and then we allow them to grow in the role. For example, when I could talk that when we had about 20 people, the first time we had 20 people was in year 2010, right? When the company had about 20 people. Of those 20 founding members, 17 are still with these matter.
wow,
17. 17 are with these matter. This is how amazing our retentions are. And all those 20 people, they might not be the best in their industry at that time. Many of them were freshers, or many of them only barely had 1 or 2 years of experience. But now almost everybody of them is enjoying a VP position or a director position at EasyMyTrip. So another thing which we have done very well is that we have allowed people to grow within the role rather than finding somebody external,
yeah,
because we think that what we are doing is extremely different, at least in terms of operations. And hence, hiring somebody from Make My Trip, Clear Trip, Yatra, they're not going to help solve the problems which we are
yeah.
solving, or the kind of structure which we have. So this is how things are done differently at East My Trip while hiring.
And I believe they wouldn't have been having the best of the salaries, but now their stock options must be like valued hugely which is what have
So,
would have paid off.
so we have recently given started giving ESOPs to all those amazing people who have helped us. See, till now we didn't know what value have we created since the
Yeah,
company never had any VC. We didn't
yeah.
know, but now we know that there's decent value which this company has created. We recently got $1 billion tag. So now of course we have created an ESOP policy, and we are of course offering them generous ESOPs at to just to uh, just to thank them for their services to Ease Matter.
And these are not even ESOPs; these are RSUs, right? Reserve stock units, which are immediately valuable and they can sell in the public markets as soon as they get
Absolutely,
it.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. This is not that's one value of being listed. Unlike in the startup, you hold the ESOPs and you don't know when they're going
Yeah.
to be liquidated. At EaseMatter, our stock is as good as cash.
I think that gives a very unfair advantage to you right now. To get in people who can stick in for the long term and give them a lot of RSUs, and you can keep the cash component. Uh, you know, uh, that suffices a very frugal engine.
No, I mean we are extremely excited. See, basically, we did an IPO at 180 price,
Yeah,
187. The IPO was at 187. Right now, the stock is trading at like 560, 570. Right. So people have
yeah,
seen that we have delivered the value in 6 months. In 6 months, the stock has gone up three times, and that too during the
yeah.
pandemic times. Uh,
Yes,
so so I think investors also understand that we actually left a lot on the table while
yeah,
being listed.
yeah.
So and I think our employees also understand that, and I think there's still so much more value to be created by Eastmatter, and our employees are also extremely excited about holding the shares of Eastmatter.
No. It's been a fantastic conversation, Prashant. I would like to pause here, and thank you for building a company which is very different, which set very different benchmarks. And, I think it's an example for entrepreneurs that you don't need to run after VC money. You can create something very valuable in a long period of time. And 12 years is not so long, but when an entrepreneur starts, there's a time bomb ticking in his head, right? That I need to hire, I need to pay salaries. But what you have shown is a very different path, a very possible path for an entrepreneur. I believe you would have personally done, and your co-founders, your brothers would have done a lot of sacrifices to reach where you are.
So I think we are a very hands-on founders. Honestly speaking, Rikant is practically the CTO of the company. He learned how to write code for each matter. So we are extremely hands-on as an entrepreneur. However, we also delegate a lot since we have actually a very good level of second level management. There's also a lot of delegation which happens, and we have been thankful that we actually found the right market at the right time. We switched at the right time. See, there are a lot of things which I could probably take as a credit, but a lot of it is basically just the right time. In year 2011, as we switched from B2B to B2C, that was a time when internet was going online, and people were looking for options. The ones who were going to travel agent, they were looking for options at that time to go online. So a lot of decisions happen at the right place at the right time, and I think it goes without saying that we must have worked hard to get where we have. But I still also think that we are at the square one, and there's still so much more to attain for this company.
Thank you so much, Prashant. It's been a lovely conversation, one of the conversations which I've enjoyed a lot. Thanks for being on the 100x Entrepreneur podcast and showing entrepreneurs how they could grow 100x of themselves without any external limitation on capital.
Yeah, thank you for having me over here. Really appreciate it. Thank you.